Hey, what is up, guys? It is Slick or Slickmoff here, back again with another video. And this one, I want to do this breakdown of a new Game Informer article. Somebody that has played the first 4 hours of Spider-Man PS4 story mode. This would be Andrew, and the game comes out in just over a month, and I wanted to give my thoughts on this article overall. We're going to do a very long kind of podcast type thing. We're going to read through the article and give my thoughts on it, skipping a few things here and there, but for the most part giving you a thorough summary of everything going on and my thoughts on it. So, he talks about gameplay at night, web slinging and tricks and, all kinds of exciting things, and, he talks about the story, Kingpin boss fight, we see gameplay footage of it, so we're going to go through absolutely everything here, and just give my thoughts on all of this news, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. If you, are in the car or whatever, listen to it as a podcast. Yeah, I'm going to be, of course, showing you on the screen what I'm reading, but I think that, this video is very conducive to, playing video games, and you can just listen to it in the background and, I don't know, let me read it to you like a story or something, and then, like I said, I'll be giving my thoughts and opinions on everything as we go. So, Andrew starts here by saying, I recently had the chance to play 4 hours of Spider-Man. Lucky. The extensive play session gave me a better understanding of how this superhero experience is stitched together, as well as how it balances the duality of Peter Parker and his masked alter ego. I have dozens of details to share regarding the open world, combat, and missions, but my time with the game can be distilled into one short message. Be excited. Be very excited. Earlier this year, I spent roughly an hour getting a half hour. Okay, I thought he said a hour, and I'd be like, an hour. Okay, anyway, getting to know Insomniac Games' version of Spider-Man for Game Informer's May cover story. This limited hands-on opportunity delivered on the game's proof of concept. I walked away from it with a good understanding of the vision for the open world design, combat complexity, and storytelling ambitions. However, as much as I enjoyed web-slinging through New York City's bustling streets, I wondered if that experience would have staying power. I also questioned how much variety would be included in the mission and city activities. That's also a concern that I have. Mainly also just with the civilians. New York City has a lot of interesting, people in the city, right? And there's so many different types of people. So what are the civilians going to be doing? Are they just going to be walking around? Where's Times Square and the really busy, parts of that? Okay, granted, they're in Manhattan, and I don't know if Times Square is in Manhattan because I don't know anything about New York City. But my point being, is there going to be, nightlife? And you can see, below as you're swinging above, there's, a club and a bunch of people, outside of the club and, whatever. All kinds of different things that I really hope they program to just make the game more, vibrant and give life to the game. Insomniac's boast of this experience being as much about Peter Parker as Spider-Man also needed to be seen to be believed. And that is what I'm most looking forward to when we hear gameplay of Peter Parker in the lab at his place of employment. All that stuff sounds absolutely excellent. Regardless, that 30-minute test run was exhilarating. I wanted more of it. After spending another 4 hours with the game, my excitement level hasn't diminished in the slightest. Okay? The Insomniac and Sony representatives that orchestrated this play session told me I played through roughly the first act of the game. Okay, so, he played through a third of the game, 4 hours, meaning that roughly the game's going to take 12 hours to play through if you're his skill level. I'm sure he wasn't in a rush to do things, so maybe, a 10-hour story seems more realistic, which is a very, very solid. After seeing the first act at the end of my play session, I felt like I was just scratching the surface of what this game has to offer. The big takeaways: the thrill of web-slinging doesn't go away. I doubt I'll ever take the fast travel system, given just how much fun it is to move through the city. Yes, there is that subway, fast travel system, but, like he said, you can just kind of, swing around. And the city, the map is so huge, there's no reason for them to give you fast travel unless you're fast traveling somewhere off the map, like to your apartment or something. Regarding the story, while I spent most of my time in various forms of the Spider-Man suit, Peter is front and center in a number of the early story sequences. His relationships are well defined in these moments, and I didn't mind the game slowing down to focus on them. I'm assuming he's talking about Yuri, Mary Jane, perhaps Miles, although I think Miles is going to be introduced a little later, but anyway, both in terms of atmosphere and gameplay. The one hangover question I still don't have a definitive answer to is the variety in city activities. At the end of my play session, I was just getting a taste of those diversionary tasks. They roll out slowly, and it looks like they are all introduced during the critical path. So in other words, the side missions are introduced during the main story, and you get the side missions by playing the main story. So very similar to the Arkham games. Did any new hesitations arise? Just one. I found myself gaining new suits and the means to unlock them quickly. Getting new stuff to play with is almost always a good thing in games, but it feels like Insomniac was just throwing them out like candy at a parade. I don't think that's an issue. I mean, if he had issues with the story or something, but getting, like, B skins or, backup skins, I don't know. I don't really care. Okay, anyway. I know I'm singing Spider-Man's praises through most of this preview, but that doesn't mean it's a Game of the Year contender yet. I can tell you it has a hell of an introduction. It only gets better as it goes, but I have no idea what to expect next. There's a chance it could fall apart and run into repetition issues. We'll have to wait for the final game to hit before we can truly weigh in on the full experience. Now it's time for a spoiler alert. I do spoil a few small things, okay, so spoiler alert. But I read through the entire thing. There's virtually no spoilers. So this is a really interesting part. Let's skip down to here. He's a scientist, and he talks about how I learned who Peter's... Oh, excuse me. Sorry, once I read a lot aloud, I need to yawn a little bit. Okay, anyway. I learned who Peter's employer is, and why Insomniac wants to keep it under lock and key until the game releases. This reveal, along with all of the events that happen shortly after it, are really good, and they're testament to the engaging narrative Insomniac is spinning. One moment that makes this moment sing is just how much it slows down to focus on Peter and all of the people around him. We even get to step into Peter's shoes and white lab coat for a day of work, so that's really, really interesting. Experiencing Peter's line of work isn't just a one-off moment either. All research tokens that players can earn are offered as rewards for completing some of Peter's work. Insomniac has a long history of making puzzle-like mini-games in Ratchet & Clank, and you'll come across 2 puzzle exercises in Peter's lab. So, we're going to be doing mini-games in Peter's lab, and that's how, we're going to be completing some of his work tasks, which is really interesting. I'm glad that they're focusing so much on this, and this is one of my main complaints with the Batman Arkham games, being that we don't get to see Bruce Wayne's side of things enough. Bruce Wayne hanging out in the Batcave and shit like that would be really cool. Granted, we got the Batcave in Origins, but the other parts of Wayne Manor, you know what I mean. The first minigame pushes the player to fix a servo control path on a circuit board. Okay, it's not that interesting. Let's keep going. The second minigame also not that interesting. I don't care about the little minigames. At the conclusion of these levels, Peter talks about the polymers and cellular whatnot he is analyzing. Some of the research might be tying up in the larger Spider-Man universe. This slow moment in the lab offers up some fun puzzle gameplay, but it brings you deep into Peter's personal life. You get a good sense of how he's wired as a person from this singular day of work. That's also very, very interesting. Kingpin on a rampage. So I'm going to show you a little bit of this video. You can't hear it that well. So first of all, we get to see nighttime free roam gameplay, which is incredible. And then we're also going to look a little bit at some Kingpin gameplay. I'm just going to mute it because they're just talking. So we do get to see some excellent Kingpin gameplay as well. The boss fight looks okay. It doesn't look remarkable. It reminds me a lot of an Amazing Spider-Man kind of boss fight where, you're kind of just beating him up, and it reminds me of the Shocker boss fight from the Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's nothing remarkable by any means, but, we'll have to wait and see. This is just a segment of it. It looks entertaining, but it doesn't look like, the best boss fight ever. I'm sure there's going to be much better, and it is the first boss fight in the game. So we see, basically, it's been years of culminating to take down Kingpin, and he finally gets the chance to. The web-slinger and mob boss throw down in a spectacular fashion. Kingpin is resourceful, and he's prepared for his tower to be attacked. He attacks like an enraged bull, charging all over the place, throwing everything he can. Okay. Quick time events. So there is some quick time events. We saw that L1R1 in the main mission. The structure of the game. Insomniac has said the open world can be freely explored after the first mission, but there isn't much to do, it says. So, we're just going to have to wait and see about that. I also worry about the traffic and civilians. Once again, it's New York City. There should be lots of traffic at times. Standstill traffic. There should be, fights outside clubs and bars and, all kinds of interesting things that I really hope that they include in New York City. Okay. F.E.A.S.T. F.E.A.S.T. With fist behind bars, Peter wants to celebrate his victory. He decides to share this moment with someone who has always been close to him. He wants to see May, his adoptive mother. You catch up with her at F.E.A.S.T, a homeless shelter operated by Martin Lee. Okay, so Martin Lee, of course, is a bad guy in the game, but he does good things, so Mr. Negative. Anyway, the story mode begins with Peter taking control of Peter again, with the player taking control of Peter again. The space the player can navigate within F.E.A.S.T is surprisingly large, and most of it is filled with things to see and people to interact with. Most of the workers who utilize F.E.A.S.T services know Peter and want to converse with him. When you walk near some of these individuals, their animation changes to recognize you. They may wave or nod at you. Some of them even start talking, perhaps sharing a story about a moment in their life, which is really, really interesting. The Peter moments sound phenomenal in the game. One of the people of interest is Lee. When you chat with him, the game transitions from a cutscene of May's party, which I previously detailed in the cover story. After this joyful sequence ends, the player is once again given freedom to explore the facility. If you go upstairs, you'll find May in her office, hard at work. Corkboard behind her is filled with children's illustrations. These pictures were made by some of Insomniac Games' employees' children. Interesting. Okay. Kingpin Aftermath. The city apparently wants to remove any hint of Fisk from its streets as quickly as possible. Peter learns that most of Fisk Tower's prized property is being auctioned off. The sale is being conducted at a gallery called Roseman. Yes, after Marvel Games creator Bill's Roseman. When Peter arrives, he sees the venue has been seized by mysterious masked individuals. They're Mr. Negative's henchmen. So they basically crash the party of the auction for Kingpin. You can't take out his adversaries quickly. They panic and they will reach a failure state. The short little cutscene is disturbing, but shows the great lengths Insomniac is going to give every moment. You then get kicked back to the last checkpoint to try again, so you have to take them down stealthily. As Spider-Man works his way through Fisk's wide assortment of ancient collectibles, most of which are protected by glass that you may sometimes shatter, he runs into Mary Jane Watson. So unexpected, so I thought they were dating at this time. Oh, so Peter and Mary Jane have been broken up for a while, and this unexpected meeting shows they haven't stayed in contact. I won't go what is said between the two, but eventually gives away the game's fading to back 15 minutes earlier appearing. I won't go into what is said between the two, but it eventually gives way to the game's screen fading to black and the words 15 minutes earlier appearing. You are now exploring the estate sale as Mary Jane, well before Mr. Negative's crew. I see. So they meet at the estate, and Mary Jane is kind of looking around and, looking for things, and they run into each other, Peter and Mary Jane do. We have to wait to see why she is there, but the moment shows she's a crafty reporter with a few tricks up her sleeve. Mary Jane can walk and run, and will eventually need to use stealth to silently work her way through the estate sale. So you're playing as Mary Jane, stealthily going through the estate that is being auctioned off, which is Fisk's auction, and Mr. Negative's troops crash the party. Mary Jane is equipped with a camera, and you can snap photos of anything she sees. That's awesome. She will even comment on Fisk's items when snapshots are taken of certain objects. One of Fisk's prized possessions is a cello named Vanessa, which is a direct reference to the comic book history. Interesting, I didn't know that. Mary Jane also engages in a fairly complex puzzle that involves item manipulation. Overall, I enjoyed the time playing as her, but the intensity of her gameplay was well established. So you get stealth gameplay as Spider-Man and as Mary Jane. That's absolutely incredible. I can't wait for that. The passage of time. You won't see Peter retreat to his apartment at night or be alerted of what day it is, but you will see the main characters wearing different clothing, and certain missions give way to day or night changes. The city is just as colorful as at night, establishing a different type of warmth and intimacy with its yellow streetlights and vibrant neon signs. I didn't get a good look at the night activity to see if numbers are thinned or if they have different behaviors, but the city itself takes on a whole different identity when the sun goes down. And as I was saying, I really hope that vibrant nightlife is there. Web slinging is disabled in some areas. In some interior sections with lower ceilings, Spider-Man won't be able to web sling. This caught me off guard as I was web swinging as an evasive tactic in outdoor battles, and suddenly couldn't use that in Fisk Tower. The ceiling height and somewhere I couldn't swing appeared to be around 20 feet. That's quite low and surprising, frankly. The game is challenging. I played on the amazing difficulty and found most combat exercises to be a good test of skill, which I like. Of course, one of the biggest complaints about, the Arkham games is that they're too easy, and I'm fine with a more challenging game. Side missions. Critical path story missions appear as yellow icons around the world, so you have to go through the main story to unlock the side missions. I played through one of them that was odd. I won't go into exactly what happens in the lengthy diversion, but can safely say that a woman named Stephanie is obsessed with something in the park. She requires Spider-Man's assistance, but things quickly go south. All hell breaks loose. Again, the little details are everywhere. The side mission was fully fleshed out with story, spoken dialogue, and cutscenes. Fascinating. Okay, so I don't know why he's telling us about this and being cryptic if he's not going to say what it is. So anyway, we'll just have to wait and see. Leveling up. Almost everything Spider-Man does in the game nets the player experience points. When enough XP is earned, a message will appear on screen alerting you that a new level has been reached. This milestone rewards you with a skill point that can be used to gain power. Okay? Melee damage can increase by 10%, health boost, web gadget, so that's typical, skill tree. When skill tree points are earned, the player can exchange them for abilities that fall into 3 categories: Innovator, Defender, and Web Slinger. The latter details the web slinging and city traversal. Defender is exactly what you'd expect, and Innovator is mostly focused on improvisational, stuff like throwing items. Introductory powers in each require 1 point. Eventually run into others that require more, along with specific player levels that must be reached before they can be activated. Most of the skills add nuance to a web slinging and combat. Interesting. So I really like that. A pistol yank to extending the range of perch takedown. Okay, so, at the beginning of the game, it might be a lot of, smashing and kind of, button spamming. But, as time goes on, you'll be able to add more unique skills to your repertoire, such as grabbing guns from people and stuff like that, which is interesting and great to see. We were originally told a charge jump wouldn't be in the game, but it appears the stance on this power has changed. You won't be able to use charge jump right away, however, and we'll have to unlock it. I didn't get to test it out, but I did see a video of it. In this clip, Spider-Man ducks down for a second and then launches himself high into the air. I'd say his vertical is about 25 feet. Wow. You need to press R2 and X. Interesting. Tricking for XP. So this part's really cool. So you can do backflips. You can do like side ollies and stuff like that. So you get a moonsault. You get 2 XP. So it helps you level up doing these tricks, which is great and really, really interesting. You won't be able to enter Peter's apartment whenever you want. Oh, that stinks. But it does show up on the map, and it is featured in the opening cinematic and likely cutscenes over the course of the game. His apartment is located on the eastern side of Chinatown. Well, that stinks. You're not going to be able to get into it whenever you want. I was really hoping that you would be able to, but that's okay. Completing activities reward you with experience points and tokens, which are divided into 6 categories. You'll be the strange form of currency to build suits, gadgets, and powers. Okay. So you have the combat tree and then the tokens, which are different ways to improve yourself. You have the Noir Suit, Scarlet Spider, Spider Armor MK2, Secret War mods. You can have 3 suit mods active on most gadgets. These range from things like ballistic inserts, which reduce bullet damage, life support. Wow, that's interesting. The life support, so that gives you health. Gadgets. Okay, so this is the good stuff. Concussive Blast. He unleashes what appears to be a sound wave that knocks enemies back just like a force push. You can unlock this gadget at level 10 with 2 challenge and 3 time tokens. Suspended Matrix. This wild piece of technology lifts enemies into the air and keeps them suspended for a few seconds. Wow. It's a higher level edition required to be level 25. It costs 2 base and 4 challenger tokens. Interesting. We haven't seen that at all from what I'm aware. Sorry. As a Jedi before, but some of his gadgets have Force-like abilities. Okay, interesting. Let's go down here. Revealing the city. The map of New York City remains blanketed in fog of war until Spider-Man activates surveillance towers scattered across building tops. Each tower reveals a portion of the map, much like the synchronization points in the Assassin's Creed games. When that area is exposed, Spider-Man can scan it to see locations of side activities. The towers don't automatically activate. We'll need to sync his phone to them. Okay, so he uses his phone to activate things as well. Very, very interesting direction to take. I'm down with it. So you have benchmarks. That's typical. Backpacks is a litter bug. He leaves backpacks all across the city. Each one contains items from the past. When you explore this inventory, Peter verbally shares some thoughts on the item. 55 backpacks, and there's a reward for finding them all. Interesting. So that's like the Riddler trophies, or some collectible that you need to find. When new villains and people of interest appear in the story, they are added to a character bios tab. Okay, that's also very typical. Peter voiced his love for photography and said that he wanted to go back to it at some point. I was impressed with the little details on the camera HUD. Interesting. I used the camera for a good 5 minutes to snap photos of people on the streets and the impressive skyline. I took a photo. Oh, so we do have photo mode and secret landmarks. That includes Avengers Tower. We've already heard about that. Oh, the Daredevil guy. During one of my aimless web-slinging exploration moments, I heard a subtle ping sound that indicated a backpack was nearby. I stopped dead in my tracks and scoured the area to locate its origin point. After locating it, Peter discovered it contained a Soul business card that was handed to him by Matt Murdock, Nelson and Murdock, attorneys at law. Featured Burrell writing on it. As you look at the card, Peter shares a funny story about meeting Murdock. J. Jonah Jameson has a talk show. He couldn't discover what was being talked about, but that's interesting. The loading screens, a black screen with a small pulsating spider logo in the lower right-hand corner, and a more interesting loading screen that features a still image and tips that you can scroll through by pressing X. He's always wearing the suit that you're currently using in play. Customization, saving, difficulty. You're asked if you want to play the game on the friendly, amazing, or spectacular difficulty level. Despite somewhat intimidating name, amazing is the default difficulty setting. Stronger and more aggressive enemies. If you find that these settings are a little too difficult, you can switch them at any point during gameplay. I didn't have any issues with the camera. Players can change the look sensitivity, audio and video, and now we wait. Okay, so great screenshots that we used from 4K. Overall, really interested to see more. This is some great information about Fisk and all kinds of stuff. So I really appreciate this article that Andrew wrote here. Thank you so much for writing it. And we're just over a month away. Rating is pending. Interesting. It's going to be T, of course, but we'll just have to wait and see. And cannot wait to get my hands on the game in just over a month. Of course, my full gameplay walkthrough is going to be coming out around that time. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. My name is Slickmoff, and I'll see you guys in the next one.